Welcome back, Flyers Nitty Gritty fans, to Getting Gritty with It with your host and my co-host, partner in crime, Vasili, Gianarakos, and I said that with zero hesitation. What's going on, buddy?
This time you're going full throttle right off the bat, no hesitation.
Yes.
Not much, had a good holiday season. How about you? Nice holiday time, some time off?
Yeah, I'm Jewish, so don't do
Oh
much.
yeah,
I saw Spider-Man. I had Chinese food.
there we
Spider-Man was
go.
cool. I didn't think it was incredible like everybody else did.
I thought
Actually,
it was good,
I thought it
but
was good.
hold off on the Matrix, I would say. No
Oh
spoilers,
my
though.
God, oh my God.
It's not the best movie.
Oh my God, it was horrible. People at my work, and I loved the initial Matrix. All three of them I enjoyed.
Yeah, we're
First one
good.
obviously is like a gold standard, and the other two are like okay.
Yeah.
People at work were asking me like, how do you rank four in comparison to the
It's
other
not
three?
even a part of the same
I said
series in my eyes.
I was like one, and I was like, and I like three, and then two, and then nothing, and then four. It's like it's like a made for, which doesn't really exist anymore, but like a made for TV movie
Yeah.
version of the Matrix.
I agree. It was not good. So
Ugh,
just
it was so
if you want
bad.
to check it out, at your own risk.
If the Flyers lose and you want to feel better about the Flyers losing, watch the Matrix and be like, well, at least it's not that bad. That's how I think about that movie.
That's a good analogy. I like
Yeah,
it.
that's talk about needing a rebuild. That's a franchise I would say you tanked. You tanked.
Oh,
You need a rebuild.
100%.
Yeah. How was your holiday, man? What'd you do?
Oh, it was great. Just had Christmas dinner with the family, stuff like that. Hung out, nice gifts. Can't go wrong. Lots
Get
of
anything
turkey, lots of
cool?
stuffing.
Get anything hockey related?
Nothing hockey related. I did get a really cool like watch case and a new watch from my
Oh, dope.
girlfriend. So shout out
What
to
kind of
her.
watch?
Fossil watch. So pretty
Okay.
awesome.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice, very cool. I almost splurged on something super random. You know those like McFarlane toys? Have you ever seen those
Oh
before?
yeah.
So I have four of them right now. I have Giroux, Gagne, Joe Thornton and the Bruins,
Who are you going
and
for?
Nicholas Lidstrom. So I was gonna buy this 2-pack. It was Jeremy Roenick and Brett Hull.
Well,
Roenick
that's a
on the
pretty good
Flyer.
duo
Yeah.
there.
And then actually what I really want is Peter Forsberg on the Flyers because he was like my favorite player. It was like
Oh yeah.
he was my favorite player not on the Flyers, and then the Flyers traded for him.
And
That
then
was
you're just
like,
oh
dude,
man,
well, imagine that feeling. Like,
your
I
favorite
never
team
had
trades
that.
for your favorite player. Yeah.
Yes. Like, and he was like clear. It was like him, Mike Modano, and Simone Gagne. Like, those were my three
Were your
favorite players.
favorites, Yeah.
And literally, and Peter Forsberg was easily number two. And if he was a Flyer, he would have been number one. I always loved Gagne. But then they played
Gagne's
together.
one of my favorites too.
That's
I
like a
know.
movie. That's like a movie I wrote.
Gagne, Knuble, Forsberg,
Oh
probably
my
like one of the
God.
best Flyers lines ever.
Yeah. If it was Mike Recchi on that line instead of Knuble, that'd probably be
Yeah.
by far a
Yeah,
dream
Mark
for
Recchi
me.
was killer.
Yeah, he was awesome. All right, let's get into it. We got some good Flyers talk about. So we wanted to do this episode because we wanted the Flyers to actually play a game. There's been an 11-day hiatus. Yes, 11-day hiatus since the last game. Games were postponed. They'll probably be scheduled for a later date, probably since the Olympics have been canceled. They'll be playing it probably. They'll be reorganizing the games in that gap most likely, and there'll probably be an additional gap at the end of the year. So do expect those games to get played regardless of what's happening with COVID. I don't think we're cutting down from an 82 game season. I think all that stuff will be played.
Yeah, money's too important for the NHL right now, especially after having a few seasons where they didn't get to play 82 games. They need that revenue.
Yeah.
They're going to play games if they can to 82, 100%.
Let me ask you this actually, because you live in Canada. For those who are not aware, he lives in Canada, in Toronto area, right? Toronto area. Yeah. So I know Ontario is a little bit different. Like everything's, I know it's not like one rule for every territory.
Yeah, it's all different provinces, so different states.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Do you think there's any chance that, because I think this is happening in the NBA, that the NHL is like no home games in Canada?
No home games in Canada?
Because the loss of revenue.
I just can't. The only reason I can't see it happening is just because hockey's so huge here.
It's humongous.
Yeah,
but nobody can be in the stadium.
It would
they
be
lose
devastating.
Money.
Well, right now, at least in Toronto, so for Maple Leafs games, it's 10,000 people have 20, so it's 50.
Oh,
it's 50%.
So it is 50% capacity.
Yeah.
So,
apparently today, actually, the Ontario chief medical doctor
reduce the 5 day,
yeah,
to 5 days or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So they reduced the quarantine in Ontario from 10 to 5 days, which is a good sign, obviously, for players that are in Canada on Canadian teams. But then also they're having discussions on if they want to limit the 10,000 capacity that they have now to 1,000. So I don't see that happening, to be honest, at least in Ontario. Maybe for the Canadians, like in Montreal, and maybe in like Saskatchewan and Manitoba and things like that for Winnipeg.
Quebec Providence.
Yeah, Quebec Province and all that. Like, I mean, Ontario's pretty conservative with stuff, so I don't see them doing it, but we'll obviously see what happens. I think we're going to continue to have home games. It's just going to be not the full 20,000 arena, but like 10,000. And then
because anything below that, you start losing money.
And then also basically, I mean, if you look at the way it's gone with like the health regimens and just like the protocols and stuff like that, like Canada's usually a couple months behind the States. So whatever the States is doing, we're going to follow in a couple months. So I don't see even the restrictions lasting that long.
Okay.
To be honest.
All right. Well, that's good. Because I was thinking
about my Canadian perspective.
And that's why I was asking you, because I'm completely, I'm just completely guessing.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm updating. For those who are not aware, we're going to have Craig Eagles on here next week. So,
and he's a great guest. So that'll be a fun episode.
I'm super excited for that. Okay. Sorry. I just wanted to save that. So we have that. I did send you an invite, so you will see that.
Perfect.
Okay, cool. So, okay. Let's move forward. The Flyers are not in Canada, right? They just came off of a trudgish, I don't even know what the word to use, a painful victory over the Seattle.
Not the best victory. Not the best victory, but I mean,
a victory nonetheless.
Yeah, a win's a win. They need points. They're trying to get back into the playoff race. I don't think the players, like the way they played. You saw Giroux in the intermission when they asked him how the team playing, and he said it's terrible. So that's just as indicative.
How was your energy? It was how was your team's energy in the first period?
Terrible.
He said terrible.
Yeah. So I mean, people say, Giroux's not the best leader. He's not vocal. How more vocal do you want to be saying terrible on live TV,
dude? So, from what I understand, he's the most competitive guy on the team by far.
Yeah,
if you think he is not saying that they look terrible in the locker room,
he's saying it.
You're kidding yourself.
Yeah, pretty much.
Highly competitive people do not keep their mouth shut.
No. So, I mean, the team didn't play well. Probably any player would tell you that. The main thing is they got the 2 points. They're trying to get back in the playoff race, which they've done essentially. I mean, they're 2 points back now of the Red Wings, who have 33 points, and they have 31.
Right.
And they have a game in hand. They could tie them tonight and be, tied for the final wild card.
Which
after a 10-game losing streak is pretty.
It's hilarious.
It's pretty funny, yeah. But it's peak Flyers, which is great.
I do want to say, because I know that Chris, because for those who are not aware, I do the other podcast with Chris, Don't Panic. People were giving him shit about our name for the podcast. And that name literally exists because of the Flyers fan base, just so you guys are aware. And not just
always
the fans,
panicking.
also the writing team. It's not just the fans. I'd actually say
media can
more because of the media.
The media can dig in a lot.
Oh, absolutely. And again, I saw so many people break down the math of like the impossibility of the Flyers making the playoffs, and like, it's not going to happen. I'm not saying that it's happened, but it
fails to factor in a lot of things, in my opinion, and it fails to factor in the fact that other teams will lose games too,
and that they're not going to go on their current trajectory.
Yeah, but the thing is, and the main thing about this win that you have to really key in on is the Flyers are missing Carter Hart, their starting goaltender. I mean, arguably their best player. Not to say Martin Jones was bad. They won because of him. And he's been a great backup all season.
Who everybody thought he would suck as well, which I did not.
Which you never even gave him a chance in the uniform to say that. Nonetheless, so, they're missing Hart, missing Couture, their number one center, arguably most important player on the team, just in terms of all situational play.
Sure.
You're missing Scott Lawton. You're missing Derek Brassard, 2 other centers. So that means you're missing 3 potential center options on the Flyers. Look at any team in the league and you take away their number one center in Couture, and then you take away 2 other center options, and tell me how the process or how they're going to play on the ice. The Flyers should be happy they got the win with the lineup that they're icing. And frankly, I mean,
and they're
I
also
can't.
Kevin Hayes is number one spot.
Yeah,
Who's two
who's also
surgeries removed.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
he's not 100%. So like you, as fans, as media, we should be excited that they won that game personally, because with all those injuries, it's hard to win. And second thing is it's a turning point, I think, for this team, because if you look at how they played under Vino, if that was a game under Vino, I think they fold and they lose that game
Absolutely.
Once Seattle goes up 2-1 in the third there, and they come back and tie it right away. They didn't have that resiliency under him. It seems to me that they're building more resiliency under Mike Yeo. And I really think that's a major thing to look at, because even though they're not playing their best right now, they're able to be resilient. And as time goes on, they get those injured players back. They're going to, play better, most likely, just because they'll have better talent on the ice. And then you factor that type of resiliency in with better players, and it could mean even better results. So if anything, I think it's better to look at the win as a positive than a negative, just because of all that. But I mean, that's my outlook. Well, how about you?
Yeah, dude. Well, here's the thing that, I mean, I agree with pretty much everything you said. Here's the thing that drives me nuts is, and this happens every time. And, I brought this up to you off camera, but they don't deserve that win. I've said this several times. Go back to when the Flyers were even worse. There are plenty of nights where they outplayed their competition and walked away with a loss.
Yeah.
It happens a lot.
It happens in hockey a lot. It's a lot. Yeah, it's a game full of bounces. So
yeah, and that's the thing. This whole they don't deserve to win. It's like, oh, they don't deserve to beat the bad teams if they don't dominate them, and they don't deserve to beat the good teams either. Or like it's just like it is what it is. It is what it is. It's not a series of beauties leading up to a playoffs. The Flyers are not a cup contender. That is obvious. They're not playing like a cup contender, right? I think they have enough talent to make some noise in the playoffs, but you have to play like a playoff team also. You can't just,
scrape by.
Right, exactly. That's not a realistic thing. So like if they play better, like we might go out and get additional talent, but every win matters. And to me, if they walk away with the win, that is what's important, and they deserve the win. If your goaltender stood up and played well, you deserve the win. If Ivan Provorov scores that type of goal in a 3-on-3, you deserve the win. Like, you don't take it away from the team because you're bitter about the first two periods. It's irrelevant. If a team starts shitty in the beginning of the season, like the St. Louis Blues did, and they turn it around and win a Stanley Cup, do you go, well, they didn't deserve it because they didn't play the entire season great?
No,
it's like, it is what it is. A wins or wins, and I'll take all. Again, does it mean we're a cup contender? No. Is it a flawed win? Yes. Do they have stuff to work on? Absolutely. But I don't think it's a reflection of where the team is overall.
No. And especially, with a limited roster that they have, one could say that, once they start to get some bodies back, if they're winning with such a limited roster, they should probably play even better. So in a sense, like I said, you could look at it as a positive. You could say, the process isn't there, but with what they have, literally all new lines due to, all the players in COVID protocols. And then also an 11-day break where, you're not going to be as sharp as you should be as a player, and things are going to be connecting. Yes. You could have see that from both perspectives, from a Seattle perspective and a Flyers perspective. And we'll likely see the same thing with San Jose tonight. I don't want to say that they're not going to start off strong, but I would almost, put out there that chances are San Jose probably isn't going to start off the most crisp they've been all season after, a 12-day layoff, 11-day layoff. So
hopefully it's just how it is with advantage of that.
Yeah. And it's just how it is with the game of hockey. If you take an extended period of time off, you're not going to come back at your 100% best. So anybody that was expecting that type of game from the Flyers last night, under 100% best game of the season type of game, it's just not going to happen.
And the Flyers also swept Seattle. So I'm sure Seattle didn't go into that game going, oh, yeah, we're just going to throw in an average. Like, no, we got beat by them twice already. We're going to come out swinging. And they did. And they've beaten good teams this year, too. They're not, like, completely devoid of talent or anything like that. They've beaten
some pretty good teams, actually, if you look at their wins. So
I don't know. It's just frustrating that people can't be happy about things, like, working out for us in the end. Like, they're still upset. Like, I get it, though. Like, I understand where they're coming from. But it's an 82-game season. You can't. It's exhausting to do this to yourself on wins.
Well, it's not an NFL type season, right? And I think a lot of the time with the fan base, it kind of goes back to that. You know, you have an Eagles game. Every game's the biggest game in the world because there's only a certain amount of games.
Let me stop you for a second. Let's talk about the Eagles, because the Eagles right now are above 500. They need one win right now to clinch the playoffs. They're probably going to get it. And there are plenty of people, and I know because I go and watch Eagles game, and people who said they're not making the playoffs this year.
Yeah. You got to play out the whole remainder of the season before we see what the result is, right?
Well, it's also like there is a process to improvement as well. Like we see it all the time that teams start off a certain way and then finish better, deal with adversity in the beginning, fire a coach, change the way they play. We see it all the time.
Yeah, and now 6-1-1 under Mike Yo. So there you go.
I just don't understand why it's always like a default to doom and gloom, even as things are improving, and even like a hiccup in the road. Like I listen to people like bashing Travis Konechny, but prior to that, he was like putting up points every night, and all of a sudden it's like 11 games off. One mediocre.
I have a funny thing to say about Travis Konechny.
Yeah, actually. Well, this might be a perfect segue. Let me just finish my statement and then go on. And then he has one bad game, and then it's like, this guy just doesn't fit here anymore, which, by the way, he's only 24 years old. Anyway, go ahead. Yeah,
how many 24-year-olds has this team given up on that people go crazy over, like we alluded to in the last episode? Justin Williams, Patrick Sharp. I'm sure if we trade Konechny, he has a 30-goal season somewhere, we hear the same exact things echoed again.
If you put Travis Konechny with a team that is rolling, playing well, I'm talking about the team is playing well.
Yeah,
he's going to have another at least 50 to 70 point season in him. Like he puts up 40 points on a bad year. He's on
pace to get around 55, 60 points already this season.
That's what I'm saying.
Arguably, I would say he's probably going to end up with more just because that's how it works. Players are streaky. We see JVR. Everybody was bashing him earlier in the season. I mean, now he's scoring
streaky,
goals.
But and this is not a contradiction. We're saying players are streaky, but a good team is not. Like players will always be streaky, and that's what covers that up. Is that when Konechny goes silent? Well, when Konechny goes silent for a little bit, somebody else steps up, and then you don't notice that because the team is rolling. It's very rare that you have one or two guys on your team that are scoring every single night.
Well,
most teams don't have that.
He's on a pretty long goalless drought. I'm not sure exactly the number. They mentioned it on the broadcast last night during the game. Despite the goalless drought, he has 8 points in his last 8 games.
That's what I'm saying.
What else do you want from him? Like, I mean, assists not count as points? I don't know. They set up goals. I'm just wondering.
And I think that's great that you brought that up. And I get that goals are tougher than assists to some degree, right?
Yeah.
But the one thing is, like, I never saw Konechny as like the goal scorer.
Well,
he's never like a pure shooter.
Yeah,
he was always a playmaking, feisty, two-way type of
speed.
Two-way.
I think the biggest thing with him is the
speed, aggression, grit, and then he's got a pretty good shot, and he's got pretty good hands. And he's got pretty good passing ability, like dynamic ability.
And
that's what he is.
He's pesky. He's annoying. He gets under the other team's skin.
Brad Marchand was never slated to be a 40-goal scorer.
No, he turned into that, though.
Exactly.
They waited. They didn't trade him at the age 25. Let's say when he was younger in his career, what would happen? A lot of times he'd take bad penalties. He'd be inconsistent, but Boston kept with it. Not to say Konechny's going to turn into Marchand, but that's just,
if he's 80% of Marchand, which I argue he's definitely, that's still a very good player.
He's on his way. Now.
Why are we looking to remove the guys who have flashes of good game? Like, why are we not like, hey, like we need 4 good lines, 6 good defensive pairings, and 2 good goalies? Why are we like, well, this is not the star guy, so like maybe we just give up on this, and this, and we just start over again?
Well, I just think it's because a lot of the times, let's say if you look at another team, and I mean, you're watching them periodically. You'll see, one of their top 6 forwards make an amazing move, have an amazing game. But that's not to say that player doesn't go through his own slumps.
Right.
It's just, you're not focusing
because
in on that.
Zabinajad, who's a great player, who had literally broke a streak against us last year.
Yeah. He had a huge goalless drought. I mean, there's tons of players you can
Still a
go
great
through.
player.
Yeah, like I said, hockey, it's a game of bounces. There's a lot of streakiness. I mean, like Konechny isn't scoring goals per se, but he's contributing. He has 8 points in 8 games. He's very pesky. He's under the opponent's skin. And if you were watching last night's game, you could see that after the whistles, they were not happy with him, and that gets under under player skin, and it affects their play, and it's a big factor on the ice.
Actually, here's a great example from the Rangers, a team that, if you ask most people, their best players are their young guys, right? Which is why we need to get rid of everybody. Capo Caco has 11 points in 27 games. Ryan Strome, a player that a lot of people gave up on, has 22 points in 27 games. Mika Zibanejad has 27 points in 31 games. Chris Kreider, a guy that people definitely gave up on several times, has 19 goals and 8 assists in 31 games. Then there's Adam Fox and Artemi Panarin, who are at the top of the team. Panarin's got 35 points in 30 games.
Oh, this world.
Lafreniere has 6 goals and 2 assists, a -4 in 31 games. Okay, this is your rebuild, guys. These are your top end young talent. Philip Cheadle, another great young player. 3 goals, 4 assists, -2. Should we continue going? Keandre Miller.
The Rangers are a great team this season.
Yeah, Keandre Miller, 2 goals, 3 assists, -3, 31 games.
Yeah.
And you guys are shitting on our young players who are outpacing them.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, this is what I say. It's the Rangers are playing well as a team. They deserve their wins because they're playing together well.
And that's why the Flyers might not be doing that.
They're not
at the moment, and they weren't doing that earlier, which that's definitely valid. But I mean, to look at and put it into perspective, after a coach firing, having the record that they have, having the injuries that they have, it's something to build on. Like if you can get out of this stretch with 6 points out of 8, let's say, you're firmly back in the race, and now you're back to playing Eastern Conference teams. If you can get back to Couturier, Brassard, and Lawton, then you have the opportunity to, let's say, okay, now we have our talent back, our roster's full. Let's build on it here, boys, and let's try to get the process kind of where we want to be. But without the wins, as we were saying before, each win matters. It doesn't matter, if they didn't play that well, if they could have been better. A win is a win, and I mean the process with who they have on the ice right now is not going to be much better than yesterday. It's just the facts of how it works, and the talent that they have.
100%. And I really like that you said that, because look, it's just a reality. Like, again, we don't have the talent level of a cup contender. I see certain flaws. Now, that's without Ellis. I don't know what a healthy Ellis does to this team. I don't know what a 100% Kevin Hayes does to this team. And obviously Sean Couturier was hurt, but we don't have, outside of Giroux, we don't have that guy who's a point per game player every day. No. We haven't had that outside of Giroux. Maybe Voracek was that guy for a little bit. We traded him, and don't get me wrong, Cam Atkinson's been good, very good at times. Actually, he's plus 14 on the year, which is like kind of crazy. He's plus 14 with 12 goals.
That's a great stat.
It's absolutely insane. And we don't have all of that, but again, if you do not play well as a team, you can bring in guys who are good, and they won't make a humongous difference. Yeah. Now, maybe you can change the tune in your locker room. And that's the one thing I do empathize and agree with Flyer fans is the fact that they're, and I mean like Flyer fans, the ones that are like upset after a win. Like, why is our team been an issue with like getting up for games? And it's been under different coaches with vastly different players. And I get that it happens to every team. It happens to every team. And I'm not going to pretend like it's just the Flyers that do it. But it does seem to be a case that like year after year, the Flyers do have trouble kind of like getting up for games. Like, let's say the top 10 teams in the league, they don't. Not as much. Yeah. And I do wonder, what is the source of that?
It's hard to pinpoint for us because, I mean, we're not there in the locker room. We don't know.
We can make excuses, but we don't know.
Yeah, and it's true. I mean, the good teams, they separate themselves, right? The top 10 teams usually are stronger starters. They're going to be better overall throughout gameplay, and their record speaks to that. I mean, for the Flyers, I wouldn't say that under Yo that has remedied itself because they still are having slow starts, but it's been better, and it's a step in the right direction, I think. And I think as they start to win more and trust his process more, we'll see, better starts. And last night they didn't have the worst start. Obviously, through 2 periods, they only had 11 shots, which is an ideal. Well, as I said, you're also missing 3 centers in the lineup. Your number 1 defenseman and your starting goaltender. That has to affect you. Like, that can't be overlooked enough. And an 11-day layoff. Not to make excuses or go back to all those points that I've said multiple times already. It's just the facts of what it is. Like, if you take, let's say you take off the Toronto Maple Leafs, Austin Matthews, John Tavares, and Alexander Kerfoot, or you take Barkov, Sam Bennett, and Jonathan Huberdeau off the Florida Panthers, are they going to be playing well or looking like their best team? It's just, what I mean?
So to that credit, I think Toronto would struggle with it. Yeah, quite a bit.
You could say you could point to Pittsburgh, I guess.
I think Florida, the way that they've been playing, I don't think they'd be immune to a decrease in their game, but I do think that they would handle it. And that's where, like, I do agree with something like the Flyers shouldn't be losing a player and not coming out with the intensity. Like, when you see guys like Jerry Mayhew and McEwen,
he looked pretty good.
Yeah, he did. And, but again, is that because he's more talented or because he was driving? Like, he was up for that game. Obviously, he's going to be. Where you see the energy level of some of the other Flyers, and it took him a while to get going. And like, that is the stuff where I do agree with the fan base, but that's not a talent issue.
No,
that's not like, oh, I need to get rid of this guy because he sucks. It's like, why is this happening to our team? And that's the only thing where I look at Yo and I'm like, whatever coach is here next, what that issue of getting up for games, that's what I need gone.
Yeah, that needs to be like the promise in the interview, or if it's Yo, he needs to change it already this season. See the results to that.
Maybe that's something that a John Tortorella, and again, I'm not advocating for Tortorella, but maybe that's something a John Tortorella knows how to handle better.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what the answer is, and I don't know what the problem is, but I have a very hard time believing that Sean Couturier and Claude Giroux and Ivan Provorov are not like up for these games when like Ivan Provorov doesn't leave the ice.
Exactly.
Like Giroux is like one of the most competitive people on planet Earth. Like I don't know what it is, and I've been in the locker rooms. I've seen the pre-games. I've seen them playing, soccer and everything and basketball. Actually, there's an awesome moment. First time I got access to a Flyers game. This was under Philly Sports Network. Shout out to them for giving me access at the time. I like never did it before. I walk into the door to the Wells Fargo and I open the door, and literally the first thing I see is Jake Voracek holding a basketball, and he just turns and looks at me, and I'm like, oh, shit.
Okay, then.
And it was literally, Giroux, Voracek, and Wayne Simmons, all 3 of them playing basketball, like getting up for the game. Just the 3 of them too.
Who's shooting the best threes out of those guys? Your memory.
That's a good question. I mean, they all like are. That's the thing.
Probably good athletes. Yeah,
that's the thing. When you're looking at professional athletes, I feel like a lot of people don't get. They're like good at every sport.
Yeah, it's true.
They're not like pros at every sport, but they're the best.
A lot of the times, most athletes would have like a main sport than a summer sport.
Yeah,
but yeah,
they're most likely going to be one of the best athletes at every sport, at everything they do. And a guy like Giroux is competitive at everything. I just remember they were just all over. I honestly, dude, it's such a blur. Because it was such a surreal moment, to like walk in and see them look at me, and I was like, act like you belong here. I was just like,
and it's the first time too to see all those guys who are like the best players on the team at the time.
Dude, the 3, it was amazing.
Back to the point about the slow. No, back to the point about the slow starts, and I'll take the blame. I asked about the threes, so. Anyways, back to the point about the slow starts. I would say, you have to really factor in the 11-day layoff. Don't understate that. I really want to see.
I do agree with
players. I really want to see tonight how it looks.
Because
now you're back. Let's see with your legs under you how you perform against the San Jose team that really isn't as strong. And you should be able to, with the talent level the Flyers have, play better than them and play a better game than them, even though it is a back-to-back. So I'm interested to see how they start tonight.
Well, and let's go. It's funny because you add a Brassard, a Lawton, Hart, and again, Jones played well, but I do think the team is more confident in heart. Though not that I think that Jones is like, I just think he gives an air of confidence.
That's just the psychology for hockey. You're going to be more confident in your
He's a superstar. He's a superstar. And then, Sean Couturier. And then, like, if you add an Ellis, a healthy Ellis, like, you look at the players that are out and you do inject them on this team, and they're doing what they're doing without those guys, right? And even the type of game where they don't play well and they still come out with the win, right? Some, guys show up when they need to in the right moments. It's not sustainable. But if you add those players and they start playing like a unit, like a team, you're not crying so much about this team. Like,
no.
There's not a humongous talent deficit on this team. There's some areas which I would argue on paper need improvement. There's some older guys like JVR who's playing well, which maybe makes him tradable. You know what I mean? Like, that's a guy who I don't want to get rid of because I think he sucks. I want to get rid of him because he takes up a large amount of cap space, and I want to replace him with something cheaper. And I don't think we necessarily need him that bad, right? It's like there's stuff like that, but that doesn't necessarily make you a better team. Like, we got rid of Jake Voracek, which everybody wanted. Everybody and their mother fucking wanted to get rid of Jake Voracek. Turnover machine. He leaves the team. Atkinson's still a very good player, right?
Yeah.
Did we get better? Is it a addition by subtraction? We got rid of Andrew McDonald, okay?
Yeah.
One season, our D was better. And that wasn't because we got rid of Andrew McDonald. Because we added other guys.
Yeah, you got Niskanen and Braun. The thing is, too, with Voracek and that whole, ordeal is, realistically, Voracek has more points than Cam Atkinson right now. Does that mean that he's better than Cam Atkinson? I don't know. They're different players. They do different things. But sometimes, as it was said earlier, in the offseason, things like that, it's just time for a change. You're with the team for almost 10 seasons like Voracek. Sometimes it's just needed, right? So
I don't have a problem with that. It's more just the way people – so right now, Voracek's got 22 points in 28 games. So about the same. He's a -3. He's got one goal, which is not good, but he's got 21 assists.
But that's Voracek. And that's what I'm saying. The dynamic, right? Like, the Flyers want somebody who shoots the puck. Voracek doesn't shoot the puck. Cam Atkinson shoots the puck, but he's not going to pass the puck around like Jake Voracek. So it's like a give and take, right? So
let's actually see the shots here. I'm actually curious. Yeah, but no, I agree. The reason I say that is just because, like, everybody wants to be like, not this one. Give me the other one. I don't want Provorov. I want a different young guy. I don't want Sanheim. I want a different. It's like, that's not how this works. Like, you iterate on what you have. You keep what's good, and then you build around that. If you're going to move a guy like TK, it better be in a package to get a superstar.
Yeah.
Like, you're not moving him away to just be like, well, just go get a draft pick for him. Why?
All that's going to do is just make the team worse, effectively.
Yeah, and it's like, you guys pretend like I just showed you the Rangers. They're not good because they got Kakko and Lafreniere.
And then traded Panarin and Zibanejad because of that. You know what I mean?
They're good because their goalie finally got older, right? They have a bunch of young talent that's like developing within their team, and they have their veterans who are playing well. Yeah. And Adam Fox is obviously one of the best defensemen in the league.
Exactly.
Right? It's like, okay. Like that. There's not like you don't look at that team on paper and go like, wow, the Flyers don't have any of this.
No.
I don't see that.
I mean, speaking to that, look at Ivan Provorov's game. I mean, yesterday, I thought he played really well. He had 27 minutes of ice time. He's, a horse out there.
Don't tell anybody.
Or else you might get flamed on Twitter if you said Ivan Provorov played a good game. But I thought he had a really great game. And the thing is, should he be able to carry Justin Braun? Yes, ideally, if you're a really good defenseman, you should be able to help and carry your partner. Is Justin Braun a first-pair defenseman at this point in his career? No. And I think over the last few games, we've kind of seen his play deteriorate a bit and come back to earth to where he usually is. Yeah. And, it's hard for Provorov in a sense that you have a guy that's probably playing above his head. You have to probably do more on the ice and be aware of your positioning a lot more. But he's doing all he can. Does that mean he's a bad defenseman because he isn't scoring at a point per game pace, or isn't Cale Makar? He's a different defenseman, right? He's more defensively sound, and he still shows that dynamic ability on the game winner last night.
I mean,
he's been good. So
of late, he has 4 points in the last 5 games.
So there you go, Ivan. That proves me wrong too.
+5.
Yeah, he's been good. And you see people criticizing his game a lot. I mean, what else do you want from a defenseman
Let
other
me
than
ask
playing
you
27
something.
minutes
Let me
and
ask you
scoring game
something.
winners?
His
Sure.
second year in the league, okay, he had
Yeah.
17 goals and 24 assists. He was a plus 17.
Yeah, he was a monster out there.
Okay, so when people see that, don't you think that reminds you of the way people talk about Heiskanen and Makar and all these other? It's like people like eventually these defensemen will struggle.
Or they'll have a season where, they're not their best offensively, which does occur.
Maybe one of them won't. Maybe one of them won't.
Yeah.
But even Nicholas Lidstrom was not a superstar from the get-go.
At age 24 nonetheless too.
Dude, I honestly would not be shocked if majority of the best defensemen in the league didn't hit their stride till they're 24. Like I never looked at it, but I really would not be surprised at all. Like Duncan Keith was like that.
Duncan Keith played several seasons. Same with Seabrook in the AHL before they even got their shots with the Blackhawks, right? So every player's development is totally different. Just because you see one superstar player doesn't mean that's going to work for the same player. Some players, are better off going through college. Some players are better off in the OHL. Some players are better off, getting AHL time. Provorov happened to come to the league right, out of the OHL or WHL, at 18, and that just speaks to his talent, right? And it's a hard league. He's adjusted as best as he can. I think, he's one of the best young defensemen in the game, and the Flyers are lucky to have him. I don't think they should be looking to move on from him anytime soon.
Here's another example. Jesse Puljujarvi.
Yeah.
How many people said he wasn't going to play in the NHL? He's 23 years old right now.
And he's playing really well.
Yeah, he has 10 goals, 13 assists, 23 points in 28 games, plus 7.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Bad attitude. He had a bad attitude.
Speaking to streakiness too, the Oilers started out as Zach Hyman, but
was not a good player
and
in the beginning of his career.
How teams are streaky, and every team goes through ruts. You can look at that terrible stretch of 10 games as like the lowest point of the season for the Flyers. It can't get lower than that. They're not going to go back into a tailspin like that. I can't see that happening in the next few months. Look at the Oilers. They started out great. Now they're on an 8 or 9 game losing streak. It happens to all teams, right? So,
especially teams that are not cup contenders.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody thought the Oilers were going to be a cup contender. They thought they were going to be a playoff team, just like the Flyers. And it doesn't stop the teams that are ahead of the Flyers right now, like Detroit, Pittsburgh, from going on a huge losing streak at some point, and then the Flyers find themselves, a lot ahead of those teams, right? So it all moves in waves, especially when, like you were saying, it's not a team that's one of the best in the league or has the talent to be one of the best in the league, right? So it's all a lot of variables at play.
Absolutely. So let's talk about, we mentioned JVR. He had 2 goals last night, had a pretty solid game. Didn't play a mistake-free game. He had some passes that definitely led to turnovers. The team just looked sloppy last night. And it's funny because like I knew what they were doing wrong. Like it was, and then when they changed it, they played better in the third period.
What would you say they were doing?
It's the same thing every time, dude. The gap control between the forwards, the wingers, and the defensemen. Every time they stretch the gaps, they look like shit. When they play tight as a unit,
they need to support each other, and that speaks back to playing as a team, right? The more you support each other as a team, the smoother the transition is going to look.
That's what I don't understand, though, is like they know that.
Yeah,
they're not stupid. These people, they're much smarter hockey people than I am.
I think it really falls back into the habits that Yo is trying to build, and like we touched on this last week when we were talking with Chris. How Yo wants to build the right habits and make sure the team's playing the right way. And even if they aren't having their best game, they fall back into those good habits versus the bad ones.
Yes.
And they were playing a system. Yeah, they were playing a system with Alain Vigneault for years where he wanted them to stretch the gaps as much as possible. And now Yo wants them to do Yo wants them to do the opposite and support each other and be closer to one another so they, have an easier time passing up the ice and breaking into the zone and transitioning to the neutral zone and so on. When you've played 3 years under the same system and, you're doing things quickly on the ice because hockey's a fast game, you're going to revert back to your instincts. And if you've been doing the same thing for 3 years, those are likely going to be your instincts versus what you're trying to do and implement now, right? So it's going to take time for Yo's system. It's going to take time to hammer into their brains, okay, we need to support each other better on our breakouts, on our gaps, on our transitions to the neutral zone. And does that 11-day layoff help them in terms of getting those habits structured into their game? Not at all. So it's a process and it's going to take time. But that's why, I wrote in my article that went up earlier today on flyersnittygritty.com that, essentially the team and this stretch, it's the most important stretch of the season because they're not playing the best teams. They're coming off an 11-day break and they have the opportunity to work through kinks. You're not going to be working through kinks when you're playing, the best teams in the Metropolitan Division or in the Eastern Conference, instead of playing, Seattle, San Jose, Los Angeles, and Anaheim, who aren't, bad teams, but they're not very good. So this is a crucial point where they can really, take advantage of the fact they're not playing the best teams and work on the process a lot more and not be burned, if things, aren't in sync 100%. So
yeah, totally. So JVR with the 2 goals. Provorov with that beautiful breakaway, and I find it funny that everybody's like, "Oh, he should take the shootout goals." Like, there's a big difference between those shootout goals and like catching a breakaway.
Yeah,
and I think again, I'm not in the camp that like Provorov shouldn't be playing on the top power play unit. I don't agree with people on that. I seem to be in the minority to a lot of stuff, and that's one of them. I don't think you should start putting a defenseman on the shootout.
No,
it's. Yeah. Though the Flyers suck at a shootout.
They do suck. So I can understand if like you're going with the same 3 guys all the time and they're just doing nothing and you're a coach and you're throwing like darts at the board.
Well, Giroux you have to have. Giroux you gotta have on there.
Personally, for shootouts, if we're just gonna talk about it quickly, I would say, I'd have Giroux, Farabee, and Frost. That's my 3, and then after
Atkinson.
that you go. Yeah, after that I'd go Couturier and Atkinson.
Yeah.
And after that, pretty much go anybody really.
Yeah, because TK is not great at it.
TK's not great.
Lawton's actually
he's good on breakaways.
He's good on breakaways, but again, there's a big difference between a breakaway and a shootout.
Frost. I think Frost is really good. Like I watched a lot of his junior games with Sault Ste. Marie, and he ripped it up in the shootouts with them.
He's the only player on this team that has a similar skill set to Claude Giroux.
Yeah. Passing wise, just his hands, all that kind of stuff.
The vision and all that. I don't know if he's going to hit that level. Again, it's so different because when Giroux played on this team, and again he started in the minors. When he came up and he was playing, he got better and better as the year went on.
Yeah,
he was playing on a very good team.
So Stanley Cup contending team. They went to the finals, like his first full season. And
the teams were still good around him.
Which is helpful for a young guy's development.
Yeah, it's very different. And then he had like Jaromir Jagr come in here as like the best work ethic out of anybody in the world. It's like it's a whole different process. It's like we need to find another Jagr, if anything. And then let's talk about Giroux. Actually, so Giroux makes history last night. He gets a 600 assist, officially passes Bill Barber. Which again, I was saying for a few years that this was going to happen. That Giroux was going to end up being at least the second best point producing Flyer of all time.
Right.
He's gotten that. If the Flyers re-sign him, which again, I'm in the camp believing that they should, regardless of if they make the playoffs or not, that he should finish his career here and continue to put up points, hit 1,100 because he can do it, and get close to Bobby Clark and give him the ability to retire here like he probably wants to and continue to compete and build for a Stanley Cup. He has probably another 3-4 years in him left in the NHL. I don't think it's the end of his career. He's still a point per game player at 34. It could drop off eventually. Now if they do trade him and they get good assets back, it is what it is, but I'm not in that camp. I'm not going to cry either way, but Giroux again with that nice setup on the power play
to JVR,
which
is crazy.
How long did it take to get him in the bump to get him in the slot?
Like 4
When's the last
years?
time you saw them do that shot?
Never.
Not under AV.
Never, yeah, pretty much. The crazy thing with
at least under Tarian.
Yeah, the crazy thing with JVR in that spot is he's always had a good shot, and Giroux and him have always had a lot of chemistry. They played together their first full seasons, both of them. In that cup run year in 2010, it was Giroux and JVR together. So they have played together for literally years at this point, like 10 years.
Yeah.
Well, obviously there's a breakup and JVR getting traded, but still.
But we know they're good friends.
Yeah, they're good friends. They have the chemistry. And I actually wanted to bring this up earlier when we were talking about JVR. at least for me, watching Flyers games for many years at this point and watching Giroux and JVR for many years, I will say that JVR plays his best hockey while playing with Claude Giroux. I don't know if you want to have him with Giroux all the time, but he, at least from what I've seen, he's always his most productive with him. And I think it speaks to just Giroux's vision and just the way they play off of each other. So I don't know if you're going to have them together for the foreseeable future 5-on-5 because we saw that change made yesterday. And JVR
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they do it today. If JVR is on the left side instead of
Lindblom. I think I could see that today. I think when they get to a healthy lineup, they ideally don't want Giroux and JVR together. They kind of want to spread it out a bit more.
Well, the one thing I actually to counter that is Lindblom is better defensively than JVR.
That's the thing, yeah.
So if you put him with somebody like Frost, I don't know, it seems a little bit safer. It's kind of weird right now though because like what happens when Brassard gets back?
There's a lot of question marks, so it's hard to project lineups like when
we don't even know I don't even know how long Allison's out for now.
Yeah, personally, I think with the JVR thing yesterday, he's just going with what's working. He knows JVR's hot. He has 5 goals in his last 6 games. Let's put the best player on the team, Giroux, and the hottest player on the team together and see if we can get a win, right? And that's ultimately what happened. But the thing with Giroux and JVR, I mean, I wouldn't say that it's a lock they're going to get continue to play with each other 5-on-5. But on the power play, you saw that bumper spot. Keep JVR at the bumper spot and see if you can get that to work. Because if they can,
somebody in there,
yeah,
freaking Christ!
If you can, I mean, that setup I like because you have Giroux on the left side, you have JVR who's a left-hand shot in that bumper position to take one-timers, and you have Farabee on the other side who can also take one-timers with cross-ice passes. So it really opens up the one-timers, something that wasn't happening under Therrien, but is happening under Darryl Williams. And it just shows that, I mean, the Flyers power play had the talent to perform. They've been pretty good. I think last night they were saying they're like, what were they? Are they like 7 for 19, I think, in the last handful of chances? So that's a pretty good percentage. They're playing well.
They're definitely around 30, 35%.
Yeah, they're playing well percentage-wise. And, I mean, is it really a surprise?
It's night and day.
Is it a surprise with Giroux on the left side? He has the most power play points in the last 10 years since 2010. He's had 308 power play points, more than Alexander Ovechkin, who's arguably the best power play player of this generation. Claude Giroux has more points than the best power play player of this generation.
Here's a question.
So there you go.
If they played together, how many more points would Giroux have?
A lot. How many more goals would Ovechkin have?
Do you think there's a chance? Because Nicholas Backstrom is a great player.
Oh yeah,
there's a chance that if Claude Giroux played with Ovechkin his whole career, that you'd be talking about Claude Giroux as one of the best players in the league all the time.
Probably.
Like it wouldn't have been labeled as like the guy right underneath the best players in the league, and mostly that's us doing that.
In my opinion, he is and has always been one of the best players in the league. I mean, anybody stating otherwise, I don't know what you're watching out there. Sorry to say, but he's like, just watch Giroux, his vision on the ice. Just watch some of the passes he makes that you and just the general viewer does not see, and then they occur, and you're just like, wow, he's a special player. And it's kind of crazy that he's been this good for this long, and he's arguably, I mean, this is one of his best seasons the last 2 or 3 seasons. He's only like performing even better as he's going on with aging like a fine wine. So it's looking good for Giroux. I can see 3 or 4 more productive years out of him easily.
Absolutely. I mean, especially because of the way he's playing right now. Like you said, this is a weird update. I'm just on here on RotoWire. I don't think this is accurate at all, but RotoWire has Wade Allison estimated return date 1/15. I don't think that's accurate. I don't know where the hell they got
January 15th. Yeah. I don't know. I haven't even heard an update, so
that's what I'm saying. Where did they get this?
Sometimes RotoWire is weird. They'll just project shit. Like, I used to follow them a lot for fantasy hockey, and sometimes I'd look to it just to kind of be like, okay, do they know something
that's why
the other outlets don't know?
That's why I was curious, because I was like, for fantasy sports, like, people need to know that. Not that Wade Allison's really that guy, but at least not at this point with all the injuries and everything. It's just
a shame because I think he's like something that the team's missing.
Oh, absolutely.
Playing style.
I'm talking about all year.
Yeah, I mean, I want to see him in the lineup, but I don't know when it's going to happen.
A season of setbacks, dude. It's just like we started off our season without our number 2 center, and then we started Then we lost our number 2 defenseman, and then and then Sean Couturier isn't 100%, and we lost Lazinski and Allison in the beginning of the season. We lost Tyson Forrester. We lost Samuel Morin. It's like, dude, how many injuries have we had to start this year off? And I saw people were like, "Oh, the Flyers are going off the waiver wire because they don't have talent." No, they're doing it because they have so many fucking injuries. How many players have been injured this year? And Fletcher obviously doesn't want to do what he did the previous year, rely on young guys. That's why York has not played on this team. No. Not because they think York is much worse than the way Keith Yandel. The way he's played, like I'm pretty sure Kevin Connaughton is going to take his spot in the lineup if Ellis comes back. Yeah, it's like I don't know if the streak actually matters to them enough, and just Yandel hasn't been good enough, and Connaughton's been good.
On the broadcast last night, he's 12 games away.
So something, and again, Ellis
once he hits that, I'm pretty sure he's out.
Only if Ellis is back. Like I don't think they're moving him and putting Sealer in.
My only thing is this: like they have York now with the taxi squad and all the new COVID, loopholes. Yeah. So I feel like, if he continues to play the way he's playing and he hits the streak, I think they'll give York a shot.
But the reality is that York is already good.
Yeah, I know.
Like even with the struggles and all that stuff. And again, I heard people saying he's struggling on the Phantoms. The Phantoms were struggling.
As
a team. They all sucked. So it's hard for me to measure that stuff because every time I see the entire team stinks. And again, they were winning once they started losing players too.
And you're a young defenseman and you're put into that situation. I mean, it's hard in the AHL.
I mean, he wasn't like tanking.
No, he's playing still pretty decent, putting up points. So
yeah, same with Zamula.
What he's supposed to do. I'm interested to see, if he gets into some games, if he helps out the power play and gets it performing even better, he'll be an asset.
That's kind of my problem is that I don't know how much. Like if Ryan Ellis is healthy, I don't think they get York on the power play.
Well, yeah, because they'll have Ellis there.
They'll have Ellis, they have Provorov, they have Sanheim,
and then Risto if you need him.
Yeah, and I don't see Risto as like really being a power play guy.
But he scored 40 points in the league. Can't deny that.
I think if York is playing with this team, he's playing as many minutes as Yandel is, which is like 13 minutes a night.
Yeah, which is that the best for his development at this point? I don't know. But, I mean, you got to learn sometimes on the fly in the NHL, and that can be the best thing for a player to know what you need to do at the next level.
I think Cam York can handle that.
I agree. He looked comfortable last season in his little cup of coffee. So
it's tough because realistically, we kind of anticipated that Sam Morin would be here to play, a role like that.
I have no idea about that injury. Is there any update on any of that?
No, they haven't even mentioned it. And it kind of makes me feel like he might not be coming back.
Yeah. I mean, he's had
too many knee injuries at this point.
And he's a big guy. I mean, he was already never the fastest skater. So.
I wouldn't be surprised if you hear Sam Morin works for the team.
Yeah, career-ending type of injury. Yeah. I mean, not to speculate, but with that many knee injuries, being a big guy, it's just that's
and the
that's
fact
nature.
that they're not updating, they're not talking about it. They went out and got other free agent guys.
It'll be interesting to see how it unfolds.
I love Sam Morin's personality too. So
he's a great guy. He's a real hard worker.
And I mean, he's an element that we need. He's not a guy who's going to show up without intensity for a game.
No,
that guy's intense for every shift.
He's real tough. That's for sure. Imagine a defense that has him and Ristolainen.
That's
people are going to think. People are going to think twice on the forecheck.
Yeah, he's even bigger than Risto too.
Oh yeah,
crazy. All right, well, let's talk about the upcoming game. We'll get close to wrapping it up here. San Jose. So the Flyers, as we record this, the Flyers are about to play San Jose in about 2.5 hours. I don't know. I guess I expect them to come out, like you were saying earlier, I expect them to come out with more energy. I think the lineup will be about the same. I think Gary Mayhew is out, and I'm pretty sure that Cates is in. I imagine they're gonna move Willman up. Potentially.
That's not surprising because, I mean, Mayhew did have some flashes offensively last night, but he didn't look the greatest in his own zone, and he was on the ice for some goals against. So.
Yeah, and I also think it's the back-to-back game. I think you're probably right, but it's also back-to-back games. Give Cates an opportunity to play. I think Thomas Hertl is out for San Jose with COVID as well.
I can check that out and see. An interesting thing for me, at least watching the game or upcoming here, in San Jose, they've been better than they were advertised at the beginning of the season. But I'm excited to watch Erik Karlsson because he's
Nick Seeler's in.
Interesting.
And so is Felix Sandstrom.
Yeah, I saw confirmed. Yeah, Felix Sandstrom's in as well.
There's no way they're sitting Yandel. They're going to sit Connaughton?
Yeah, it's really interesting to me.
I'm like looking.
Yeah, I don't know. That's weird.
I'm very curious because Connaughton's outplayed Yandel. I'm looking for it.
No. Hurdle looks like he's in. So Hurdle's
in. So yeah. maybe I read something else. I thought I read that maybe he was coming off of COVID protocol.
Yeah. So they have Aiden Hill and Knizov in injury on the injury list. And then the Flyers,
Connaughton's sitting.
That's weird.
That's per Brandon Summerman.
Okay, interesting. I don't really like that decision personally. I would keep him in there. I think he's played better than Seeler had, but it could just be a back-to-back thing. And I know, who knows what's going on with him.
Connaughton's way outplayed Yandel and Seeler.
Yeah, who knows if he's nursing some sort of injury or something like that. He didn't.
No, it seems like a back-to-back night because he's going with Sandstrom.
Okay.
Tonight,
so maybe he's just like, hey, let's get Connaughton a rest. Who knows? Or maybe he just wants to get Seeler a rep.
I told you they're not sitting Yandel, dude.
Yeah. Maybe they just want to get Seeler a rep.
Coaches don't sit guys like Yandel often.
No, I mean, also you can't sit a guy like that coming up on that streak. Like, what's the rest of the league gonna think? Like as a fan, you might think, oh, it's all about the game. But realistically, like the league and their opinion matters. Like if the Flyers sit Yandel, it's gonna be a huge story. That's not something they want.
Wait, is this the real lineup tonight? Brandon Summerman, you better not be getting this wrong. So Summerman has got JVR, G, Atkinson, Willman, Hayes, Farabee.
Okay.
Lindblom, Frost, TK.
I actually like that.
I do, but I'm a little confused why TK would get bumped down.
I think they're just trying to spread the depth, though, to be honest.
I guess, yeah. And then fourth line, Cates, Brown, McEwen, and then Provorov, Braun, Sanheimers, the line, and Yandel, Seeler.
And then you have Sandstrom in. So there'll be some interesting things to watch because, I mean, I want to see how Sandstrom's going to play. He was pretty hyped as a goalie prospect.
Willman in the top 6 forward. I mean, he has played well.
He has jump in his game.
He does, but it's just like at the end of the day, it's like
Konecny has 8 points in his last 8 games. Yeah.
I see this stuff and it's like, I don't know. Again, I'm not going to knock this because I always like Lindblom with TK. You got Frost in the middle there to
I mean, it does sound like more of a scoring line to me.
Yes. And I guess he's thinking like, who else do I play on the right side?
Yeah.
Because Farabee can play the right side better than Lindblom, JVR.
You know what? And I think the Hayes thing factors in big time here too. Because, I mean, TK is not the best defensively. Willman's probably a bit better defensively. He was playing PK minutes last night. They obviously trust him a little more defensively.
Yeah.
On a back-to-back, having Hayes playing a lot more minutes than he was previously, I think maybe putting Willman there is more to help him out defensively, especially if they're going to have him match up against, like, some of the top lines.
I will say this, and like I did say that I thought Willman was an NHL player. I definitely don't see him as a top 6 forward.
No.
But I do think he's been playing some really good hockey. I think he's better offensively
than he gets credit for.
Not even that he gets credit for. He's been more effective offensively at the NHL level. I don't know if he's ever going to be like that guy, but I will say, but he's improved so much every year.
Yeah.
Like every season he has made such a large jump in his development that it's like, I don't really know. Who
knows how he's going to turn out?
Yeah, it's like
the thing is too with guys like that is, I mean, he's had nothing given to him. He's worked for everything.
Yeah.
And coaches love players like that. That's the first thing. And another thing is, I mean, that work ethic's kind of contagious. So I wouldn't be surprised if once the lineup's healthy, I mean, he's a staple on the fourth line.
I could see that. Yes.
Yeah.
I just can't. I have zero problems with him being a fourth line.
I personally think they're just shuffling things around on a back-to-back. That's my opinion with that. I mean, if you could have a good fourth line of, Brassard, McEwen and him, or Lawton, him and McEwen or something along those lines, like I would not be against any of that. I think he's a good fourth line player. And he could play up in the lineup in a pinch.
Yeah.
Too.
My only thing is I just don't understand why Connaughton's sitting, because
that doesn't make sense. But I mean, it's possible. It's who knows what it is, right?
He hasn't been passable. He's been good.
Yeah, he's been good. But the thing is, I mean, we'll have to wait till the broadcast because they'll have more insight for us probably. Who knows what's going on? Like, who knows if he tested positive for COVID or if he is injured? Like, it's really hard to say. I don't want to say any more
I think it's simpler,
dude. But
I think it's just Nick Sealer has not played in a while.
I don't want to believe that though.
That's such a coaching thing to do.
It is.
To be
overthink it.
Well, it's not even overthinking. It's the reality that we don't have access to, is that you're managing people.
Yeah.
And Nick Sealer is just sitting there.
And he's a good soldier, and he's a good guy in the room. And
everybody likes him. And you're well, let me get him on a game. We're playing back to back.
Yeah.
Connaughton just showed up, and I've been playing just Connaughton. And there's not a huge difference between the two, though I'd argue that Connaughton's been by far the best of the three.
Personally, I would have. I mean, if there was no streak at hand, I would have put in Sealer over Yandel.
I don't think so either, because the problem with that is that you're missing a puck moving element from that pairing now. And now you have two thumpers, and we know what that looks like. Then you're just buried in your own zone the whole time. And I know Yandel has made a lot of mistakes, but
he can still make that first pass pretty
exactly. Nicely, so I don't know, man.
It's going to be an interesting game tonight.
Hopefully they just win.
Yeah, hopefully we see a win from the Flyers.
How do you think Sandstrom's going to do?
I mean, this is the thing. He played really good in the SHL. He's had some good games he's had some good games in the AHL. He hasn't set the league on fire, had the best numbers. He's also had some injury troubles, and then there's been COVID stuff. They were rotating him, Urson, and trying to get Ustamenko in. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how he plays. He has talent, and I mean, he's shown the ability to be a good goalie in the past, and I've seen highlights of him making some major saves back in the SHL. So he has the talent; it's there. I'm just interested to see because a goalie's first game in the NHL, there's always nerves. But I mean, typically it bodes well though, because usually teams want to play really well in front of a first-time goaltender. So I think the Flyers should be motivated. If we don't see them start, well tonight and come out guns a-blazing, I mean, that's kind of unacceptable in my eyes.
I am surprised that they're not doing Jones against his former team.
Yeah, I think it's more of a workload thing because Yo was saying in the press conferences that they'd like to get Jones in against San Jose, but it really all depends workload and how it goes against Seattle. And they had a ton of shots on him and went to overtime. So I think it's just you don't want to put Jones in back to back after he just had a tough game and stole the win for you, right. And then he gets injured, and then you're stuck with rookie goaltenders.
Hart's gonna be back pretty.
Yes, but still, you don't want.
But then again, you got that you're on the West Coast. You need him at least to survive this LA game.
And you don't you don't want a rookie backup.
So who is it? We have LA. So it's San Jose, then
LA on Saturday, and then Anaheim Tuesday, I believe.
Yeah, Anaheim Tuesday.
Anaheim's a good team, so they should not overlook them. They've been.
I don't think the Flyers can't afford to overlook any single team in the NHL.
No. And
they have to literally win every game. That should be their attitude, is that every game is a must-win game.
It is. I mean, it's going to be hard for them to win every game on this trip because they've just, that would make them 9-0-1. I mean, it's hard to get that on the go. I expect them to lose one game. My ideal for them would be 6 out of 8 points on this trip. I think that's the best they should aim for. I mean, obviously you want to get 8 out of 8, but you got to be realistic. It's sports. You're going to lose eventually.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I think 8 out of 8 is doable though.
It's realistic. Yeah. It's definitely not something that's out of the reach completely.
Let me ask you something. If they win these next 4 games, let's say they do it even in an ugly way, they don't dominate. What do you think people's attitudes are going to be?
Let's say they do it in an ugly way.
Yeah,
like last night against Seattle.
Win a couple overtime games, maybe blow a lead.
Oh, it's going to be the same opinion as we've been hearing.
But they would have won 10 games.
the team's winning, but it's a sham. This is what
But
they
it would
do.
be 10 wins in a row.
But like you can't even say that. Like you can't say that.
So
But the funny thing is, me and you both know that's what the sentiment is going to be. If they come
out
laughing. Yeah, because it just doesn't make sense. If they win these next 4 games with the lineup that they have right now and the COVID issues they're dealing with and not, having the best team they could potentially put up, as fans, as media, we should be ecstatic because what's going to happen once they get their full lineup? Like they could, be one of the best teams in the conference. So
I guess
I don't want to say they're at that point, but
people feel like it's never going to happen. I mean, most people don't think that Ryan Ellis is going to play again this year.
He'll play. I don't know if he'll stay healthy, but he'll play. I mean,
we still don't even know what's wrong with him.
I mean, I would say it's a groin. That's my guess.
That's a guess.
I'm gonna say it's groin because, like, I'm just paralleling it to when Daniel Briere had his groin injury and he was out for like a couple weeks and then come back and play a few games and you go out again and then eventually they revealed it to be groin. I'm just like, that's especially with hockey, it's something to do with the core muscles, 100%. Yeah. Like not 100% because I don't know, but I mean that's my educated guess. Somebody who's played hockey many years, but yeah.
So they're starting James Reimer in net tonight.
I'm interested to see Carlson because he has 20 points in 25 games this year, and he's the old Erik Karlsson. I've watched some San Jose games, and he's been killer this season. He looks like his old self.
Well, let's hope they suck a big donkey dick tonight.
Yeah,
and that the Flyers come out with a decisive win because that would be really exciting if the Flyers continue to win like this.
Yeah.
And even with the underlying negativity, like we need to make up ground.
Yeah.
There's nothing we can really complain about.
Everyone, if they win tonight, they'll be tied for the final wild card spot after a 10-game losing streak. I thought the sky was falling.
Hilarious.
I thought the sky was falling.
I wanted to happen so bad, dude.
I know.
And as much for the comedic aspect as anything.
Yeah, I know.
Because it's so Flyers.
It's peak Flyers.
To lose, to go 8-2, and then to go like 7-1-1.
Oh yeah, that's amazing. But I mean, realistically, if you're gonna have a losing streak and be bad, you would want it to be in November. You wouldn't want it to be closer to the playoffs. Like you don't want to peak too early. Like look at the Penguins. They just came off an 8-game winning streak. Are they gonna get back to playing better than that? I don't know. It's hard after a 10-game or 10-day break, but also like you don't want to peak too early. And like any NHL coach will tell you that. You want it to be playing and rolling going into the playoffs, which the Flyers are shaping up to technically be doing that right now. So it could be, all for the best.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. They got a lot of work to do. It's like
they do. Process-wise, it's not perfect.
No, I love the optimism and all that stuff, but like like they already caught like Dallas, Winnipeg. They're like in that range. I mean, Colorado's only played 27 games.
And Winnipeg and Dallas aren't bad teams, so
right, exactly.
And I would say that's about where they are, right? They're not cup contenders.
Yeah. San Jose is about where they are. Edmonton. Yeah. These are the teams that they're about even with.
Yeah, they're good teams. They should make the playoffs. Is anybody expecting them to win a Stanley Cup? No. But if you get into the playoffs and you get the right matchups along the way, just like Montreal last season, and you have the goaltending, which the Flyers do have with Carter Hart and Jones right now, anything is possible. And, it's hockey. Anything can happen.
Anything can happen, dude. And a lot of things need to happen right for the Flyers right now because I'm not interested in missing the playoffs. Despite what everybody thinks, I'd rather have them be one and done than missing the playoffs.
I'm going to go out on a limb. You guys can bash me all you want if it doesn't happen, but I think the Flyers will make the playoffs this season.
I think so too. I think if they get Ryan Ellis back and Ellis is can play, that separates us from a lot of the teams at the bottom.
I agree.
And I think it did in the beginning of the year.
I think the team they need to worry about most, down the stretch is going to be the Bruins. Yeah, that's my opinion.
100%.
They got 4 games in hand on them, but I believe they play them 2 more times. So if they can win those head-to-head matchups against the Bruins, I think those are going to be very crucial games.
That's why they need to win all of these games because anybody that they're not playing that isn't like an elite team in the league, like you have to
lesser opponent,
you have to beat them. Like right
after
now,
a 10-game win streak.
Blue Jackets are winning right now.
Okay.
They're up 2-1 on the Predators. Like,
I expected that though for tonight, just because the Predators are coming off a back-to-back. So
okay, but not good for the Flyers.
no, not good.
Wow, Patrick Laine, he's only played 10 games this year.
Yeah, he had that injury, and then his father passing away as well.
I missed that about him. I mean,
condolences for him. But,
he had his fourth goal tonight. So in 10 games, he's got 11 points.
That'll be interesting. I wonder if he leaves after the season, because he's going to be.
They'll trade him at the trade dedeadline. They're not going to let him just walk.
Yeah, probably. I don't know if he's an RFA or UFA. I would say probably RFA.
RFA.
I think he's
probably
too young. Yeah,
he's 23, so he should.
Yeah. He's way too young, man. What do we think? Predictions for tonight's game? What are we seeing? We can look like Nostradamus if they win.
4-2 Flyers.
4-2 Flyers. I am gonna say 2-1 Flyers, and Sandstrom has a good game.
All right, go optimistic with it. Did we miss anything on our topic list here? No, not really. Flyers.
We didn't really dive into COVID. I guess you guys already know they have Brassard, Couturier, Lawton, Hard out on COVID. The protocols. Ellis is COVID too, but he's out anyway.
I know. It's funny.
The protocols have changed. If you're vaccinated, instead of it being a 10-day isolation, it's now 5-day isolation, and you come out of protocol with a negative test. So that's. And
then come playoff time, there will be 0 isolation, and
they'll just be like play.
They're gonna stop caring. Like, how much money are we losing?
Okay,
you'll be just fine. All right. Anything you want to say? Anything that's coming out for you?
Nothing coming out. I'll have an article next week. Definitely. I had an article go out this morning on flyersnitty.com, just talking about the outlook of the team and what they need to do on the stretch ahead to, cement themselves back into the playoff mix. So go ahead on flyersnitty.com and please give that a read. We really appreciate all of you guys supporting us, reading all the content on there. We got great writers and just great people, and we're happy to produce all that content for everybody.
Hell yeah. Valuable member of the team here. And totally agree with everything you said. I'll make the announcement now. I don't think we'll have a problem. So we have Craig Eagles coming on next week. In case you haven't noticed, the schedule is kind of wonky with us, but we're essentially just recording around Flyers games and whenever Vasili and I can get together. But so next Wednesday, we're going to record with Craig Eagles. So that episode will be out on the 6th in the morning. And that'll be probably just like Q focused, young guy focused, and obviously a little bit of Flyers mixed in there. And then after that, the week after that, we have Steve Cornianos coming back. It was supposed to be like a blowout of the World Junior Championship, which is now being canceled. So I'm sure we'll vent about that. I'm sure Steve will share his thoughts about how that was screwed up. But he's also going to have insight on these players regardless of the tournament. He follows them anyway, so we'll probably get an early peek at like draft stuff and then just talk about probably the Metro Division in general.
And that'll be fun.
I love having that guy could talk hockey for like 9 hours straight, not even get tired.
Me too,
dude. The amount of information that guy has about hockey in his brain, it's a shocker that he doesn't work for TSN, in my opinion, because like
never know, it might be coming soon,
dude. His brain is just packed, and he's so, for me, like I could listen to him talk for so long. So he's a great one. So I'm excited to get Steve back on.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be your first episode with Steve, so it'll be cool. And your first episode with Craig too. So that'll be cool.
Couple firsts on the go.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. It's gonna be good. Shout out to the sponsor, Steve Steaks. I forgot to do it in the beginning. Thank you, Steve, for sponsoring us. Did I say Steve Steaks?
Yeah, it's Jim Steaks.
Fuck me. Do not buy Steve Steaks.
Go to Jim Steaks.
I hate Steve Steaks.
Is that a steak place in Philly?
Yes, it's a phenomenal. It's phenomenal. It's the one I grew up with. That's why it popped in my head. Go to Jim Steaks because they're so much better, and they make everybody else seem like dog shit. You're essentially just eating trash if you're not eating Jim Steaks.
Jim Steaks is so good that I order it all the way from Toronto. That's how much I crave it. Okay?
Yeah,
go to Jim's.
Yeah, it literally gets delivered by
airplane to my house.
Yeah, exactly. air shipped over on they bring it to them in hockey skates and line up ice and they slide it. All right. So go to Jim's on South Street, 3rd and South Street. Make sure you get Jim's Steaks. They are Flyers fans. They're a generous sponsor of this podcast. Make sure to check them out and make sure to send them your love and they will send you love back with a cheesesteak. Please like, subscribe, and share. Make sure you follow myself. Make sure you follow Vasili on the social media stuff. We're obviously on there. I tweet less than ever. Twitter has become just not fun.
I'm on there, even though it isn't that fun. So I'll
Yeah.
be tweeting. I'll be tweeting about the game tonight. So if the Flyers are doing good, yeah, interact with me.
Yeah.
We'll have fun.
Well, this will be retrospective.
Oh, this will be retrospectively, but still.
Next time.
Next time, interact with me.
I'm still on there, but and it's not so much like individuals. Like I'm not picking on anybody. Twitter just sucks. Like
it can be very negative.
I used to love Twitter, and it's just become like a complete cesspool of just negativity, and I don't have the patience for it anymore. But yeah, definitely follow us, like, subscribe, share it out. It's a humongous help. Check out the team store, follow Jamie, follow the rest of the team. Thank you, everybody. And Happy New Year, because we won't do this. This is the last episode before the
Happy New Year, everybody. Have a fun New Year's Eve.
Yeah, have a great New Year's. 2021 is over. I personally, on to better times. Though I didn't have a bad 2021. The Flyers did, but I didn't. So hopefully you guys have a great end of the year and an excellent 2022. Thank you again for watching and listening. Jesus. Remember, always stay green.